Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the ESBN podcast. My name is Chippy. I'm your host, and today I'm actually joined by some of the staff from the Student Rec Center and a few of my friends as well, and our assistant director of Esports and the arena, Tavian. So hello, you guys. Feel free to introduce yourself. We'll let everyone at least say hi.
Yep, Tavian Napier, assistant director of Esports and arena here.
Amy Seth, former director, University Recreation.
Yeah, until you quit on us.
Now I'm retired. Now I'm trying to figure out what I do next.
That's fair. It's a perfect place to figure it out. We're going to get you into gaming. But I am Mike Berdowski, assistant director of operations and member services.
A little fun fact, I asked Bird if he wanted to be on the podcast, and he was excited to talk about civilization today.
Facts.
So
Facts.
we are already lined up to have a good time. But to give a little bit of an idea of what we're going to talk about today, I want to talk about the legacy of esports here at Western, kind of how it started off. I know, Amy, you've been here kind of since the beginning of this program. Bird, maybe you as well. I'm not too sure on that one. But with that in mind, we'll talk about that and see how it's kind of grown from that standpoint. And then talk a little bit about your guys' favorite games. I know we got a little teaser in Birds, but, I don't really know if, Amy, you play games at all. And we'll maybe find that out in a moment.
I'm all about fun and games.
There we go. So talk a little bit about that and then kind of end off on where esports is going and kind of its legacy from here on out. So kind of a first question I have for you, both of you, I guess, to say, or all of you in general. I know, Tavian, you've been here basically since the beginning as well, but kind of how did esports start off at Western?
So I'll take that one. So it was really interesting. Actually, it was when President Montgomery came to the university. And what happened was he challenged the campus. He put some money out there looking for some new ideas, looking for forward thinking. But the caveat was it couldn't just be your own vice presidential area. You had to cross. And the more areas you crossed, the better off you were. And so, to be honest, it didn't actually start in our department. It started in
OBFIT.
Yeah, business and finance.
Oh.
And IT area.
Okay.
And so they started to write the grant concept, and they pulled us in to say, okay, if we build something for gaming, if we build an arena, if we build something, how do we get it going? How do we manage it? Who manages it? And so that's when I was invited in. And I said, this is new to us. And so I had a fast learning opportunity. But I said, anything we do as students, anything that is considered leisure or competitive or about building community, we want to be about it. And so this was a new community we could be a part of. So I knew a little bit for the fact that my brother works in the broadcasting area in Las Vegas. Oh. And I began to see what was happening of them starting to turn casinos into gaming arenas. And so I knew that there was something... we all read the same articles. We all got on board with it. And, it had to be voted on. It was, I think, at one point voted down, voted up. This was at the vice presidential level. And then the next thing we know, it's a go and we got to figure it out. Wow. So the three groups worked together. And we brought on a lot more people to be a part of it. We brought on some students to help build the concept. And, it's such a learning curve for people who don't do something. Normally you have the program already built, and then you say, we need the arena,
It's a very unique perspective we're going into.
Right. And so this really was about forward thinking. How do we, and obviously the university was interested in reaching students that maybe we weren't reaching, that we could entice. And I believed in that too. I still believe that, we're still on the front end of this. I still don't think that there's enough people that are my age or older that get it. We did have a board of trustees member who was a gamer, and he was pretty excited when we opened the arena. We made jerseys for all the vice presidents with their own gamer tags and stuff. It was cool. It was fun. So, that's what I really remember about the beginning. And then all of a sudden we hit COVID.
Uh-huh.
And then I think things started to shrink in the university. You know, we had to right size some things. And business and finance kind of said, you know, we started off with this, but we don't think this is really our area anymore. So we're going to release this. And that's when we said, well, wait, I still think there's some truth to this. I think we're still on the front edge that we would be able to. I remember Tavian talking with, and maybe you could tell that story about when you went to the school, or was Scott Puckett the person that was there? Maybe it was Scott who did the presentation.
I went with him back in the day.
Yeah, and so it was early on that he was talking to a group of young kids, and there was one kid, he said, just couldn't sit down. Stood up, bouncing around. You know, he was off the rails, so excited about, and I thought, that's our future right there. He gets it. We don't get it fully yet. We don't know how to manage it yet. And to be honest, I think we're still trying to figure that out. But I think gaming and the whole esports world is really an untapped area because now I'm older. As a retiree, and I think there's huge opportunity to do some other stuff with that. So I'll hush for a second, but I will let others jump in.
There's a lot of room for growth, and I joined it as a COVID student back in 2020. It was my first year here at Western, so I didn't really know much about esports. I had a buddy who competed on one of the club teams originally when it first started off, and that was how I kind of knew, oh, hey, this is happening, and I tried out as a freshman and kind of went from there. But even then, you know, during the COVID time, it didn't feel like, you know, it felt like it was there. Like esports as a whole was always there. It just couldn't leap off the ground. You know, it's like it was stopped during COVID. And we've seen tremendous amounts of growth, I think, recently, especially when I first joined in COVID, where the program boomed back in 2018, 2019. Like, I didn't see that. You know, I don't know what that was like. You guys all do.
I do remember the very first day that we had the meeting across campus to tell students that we were going to talk about esports and, you know, try to figure out what games to start with. And the room in the Bernhard Center was standing room only, one of the ballroom areas. And it was packed. People were interested. I think it caught us off guard that, and this is, you know, as an administrator, when you don't fully understand something, it's hard to be ahead of it. And we weren't ahead of it. We were behind it or moving with it and learning as we went. That's the hardest place to learn. If you're open, it's okay. But if you're trying to figure out, how do I manage this? That was the hardest part. But it was exciting. And then we took the top games that students were talking about. But then there was a whole slew of other games, and then it was like, how do we manage that? I mean, that was the crazy part of it. And then people were pissed at us because weren't playing their game. Right. Where I was like, clubs can play it, you know.
Yeah, and that's something we actually still struggle with today. I get constant questions asking us about games that we don't have, and on the varsity level, and all I can tell them is it's for a club. You can try out and do it all. You may have to pay a small amount of dues that go straight back to you, but you know, it's just that's the turnaround that we have with the club, which is a really great thing in mind, though, because the Smash team, which to give you guys a little insight, our Club Smash Bros team went to the Bethel event. You heard a little bit about that, our academies. They made the grand finals of that and went runner-up in that. But they're in the grand finals in a MAC matchup against the University of Toledo. And that matchup is this Thursday for their grand finals.
Great.
Nice.
So, I mean, like, they're absolutely growing. They're loving it, and they're doing everything they can, while there's some other teams that want some interest. You know, Call of Duty's finally starting to pick back up for our club as well. And I see that as a big point to kind of invest in for us as a club, because Call of Duty's been such a big scene for a long time. You know, many people growing up knew about Call of Duty and all the kind of things that surrounded Call of Duty at the time. So, you know, some of those games in mind, I think that even then, the games that we have varsity now are so popular. They still are incredibly popular. But people ask me all the times, you know, what are those games that we can support? And I don't know much how to say it against it, right? It's just like, hey, we have it. Come on, you know?
And what I tell them, too, because sometimes I get those questions where it's like, you know, Call of Duty or some other game that's not currently supported. And it's like, you know, you guys make the demand of it. So, like, the more you get people involved in this, the more likely you're going to be able to form a team, and the more likely it might get elevated to varsity. So I always try to empower the students to say, hey, like, take lead on this. If there's no team on this, try to get involved and see if you can get other people involved to be able to form a club team and hopefully get enough popularity to get to the point to where it's varsity.
Yeah, because once there's a team formed, it only grows from there. Our Overwatch teams, when they first started off, I felt like were really small. I heard a lot about how we only had like 1 to 2 teams here and there. And then there was one semester where we just had like 3 to 4 teams out of nowhere. And we got all this popularity and all this traction out of nowhere to the point where, you know, as long as the students had time in their schedule, they wanted to play. And they would play. Some of the players that are no longer on the team today that played back then, I talked to them a little bit about what that schedule was like and what that idea was behind esports. And they only had high praises for what they could do. I mean, they loved the opportunity to just compete at that level. And that was one of the biggest things, is providing that opportunity for students, which is what I think is so great about the start of this program, was bringing it to the students first, from what I've heard, at least, coming through. So I want to ask a little bit more kind of about that, you know, with those popular games in mind, was esports program, you know, solely focused on those students, maybe on more event stuff as well? You know, what was some of the ideas going into establishing the esports program? What were some of those first ideas with it?
So, and I'll jump in just from the intramural aspect. Back when I was the assistant director of intramural sports and climbing wall, we were doing some esports stuff, like just, you know, Madden, FIFA, NBA 2K, and that would be sign up on IM leagues, share your gamer tags, figure out a time to play, report the scores back. And I think that helped jumped off with esports and everything else, you know, saying that we've already been doing some of it. But I think from our aspect with intramural, sports games was just the easiest way to go about it, because we knew people were already doing it, and we just, excuse me, listed it on IM leagues in different categories. So if you played on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, you just had to sign up and then just share your gamer tags. And the biggest struggle we had was some people were super diligent about scheduling times, and then some people just signed up and never checked
Gamer
their email.
schedules is what I call them. They just did the gamer thing where they forget and don't do anything about it. It still happens today, by the way. Anyways. But no, I love to hear that, because, you know, walking around on campus when I was walking to the VDC, when I was originally in that fall semester, I remember seeing signs posted up of NBA tournaments in the area, and then I saw they were gone like a week later because they weren't with the school. Some random like NBA league someone tried to set up, and then I think it was like a week or two after that, I saw the intramural posts for all the games, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. So that's really funny to kind of see a little bit about that. But Tavian, you have some other kind of things to add on to that?
So I got hired in after the program started, because I know I got hired in like October 1st, and then the program, like the first day with the arena was the 12th of October. It was like a very memorable moment in my life. But I remember League of Legends being extremely popular back then. I know we had the president of the club who was a League of Legends player at the time too. So I think we were really leading into, in terms of like the club, I suppose, and trying to do production was League of Legends. And then I think as the program progressed, Overwatch became very dominant. You know, you had people like Evan and Bluefin or Trevor involved in that program. And then of course Vic was there too.
Yep.
So it like, they were very, very like competitive. They were very passionate about it, and like vocal in a lot of different ways as well. So those were the two main games that, like, from my perspective, that got really, really popular. And then I think over time, Rocket League, we just started to develop some really strong club teams. And then Valorant just popped up out of nowhere. Now it's after the pandemic that we really took that one on.
I think that game was released in like 2021 or something.
It was during
late
the pandemic,
2020,
I believe,
was it? Around then, but yeah, that game took off, and you know we didn't have the time to set that one up. But anyways, continue.
So I think from my perspective, it just started with League of Legends, and then we kind of went to the traditional games and branched out from there. I think where we are now is trying to find those students that are interested in some of the more, I wouldn't say obscure games, they're very popular games, but just in terms of esports on campus specifically, trying to get those students to be involved in different ways as well.
Yeah.
I think one cool thing, and I believe you'll remember this, when we did the Madden intramural tournament in the arena, and we had, would you say that kid was ranked top?
He was number one.
nationally or something like that with Madden.
Oh yeah. So he won a tournament after that too. He won like the big Madden tournament, and the actual Buccaneers retweeted his like victory after he won.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember that. Wow.
Yeah. So we've had
That's
some really
crazy.
strong players here from different areas. I don't think we've yet figured out how to really like promote those students. I know we had a really strong FIFA player as well. You and I had talked about that. She was like the best female FIFA player in the world, I believe.
Wow.
And she was a student here for I think this is like 2021, perhaps.
Yeah,
So
I
you've had a lot of
student
good players.
message me personally on Discord, the app we kind of use to communicate for a lot of the club stuff, and they were asking me about FIFA as well, and they were just like, hey, I'm really big into FIFA. There are some leagues out there, I was wondering if I could represent, myself as Western and go to these, and I was like, that's a really cool idea. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Let me find out more about it. And then I don't know how to figure that out. So I basically, had to tell him, hey, I'm sorry, I can't fully represent you, but I can represent you as a club player, and kind of went from there. But that was like, those opportunities are awesome. I love to do those types of things for students because it brings in a different perspective as well. There's different games. That's why I loved the IM games so much, that bringing in like the Mario Kart or NBA or any of the random games kind of just coming in out of nowhere. We got people who don't typically play coming into the arena, checking it out for the first time. That's some of my favorite things in the world to do, is especially when we host the SRC for the banquets and anything like that in the arena. It's sometimes those people, some of the students, it's their first time at the arena. And that is, I can leave an impact just by them walking in the door, and that's the idea that I wanted to go forward with students. Anytime a student tours the building, I do my best to be there because I love to talk about that space so much. And I mean, I get to be in there timeless hours, too many hours to be honest, and just to talk about games and what they do, and to bring in new students through that perspective is some of the best things, I think.
Yep, and that's something that I talked about with. So Kyle Belbeck is the person that's responsible for intramurals now. Yesterday, I just had a conversation, like pulling him aside and saying, "Hey, I want next year for us to have more, intramurals and try to get a good turnout. I'm not sure what we need to do in terms of promoting that, because I think it's the people who are on IM leagues aren't always the people who are going to enter the video game tournaments. They're looking for traditional sports." So between that plus having a goal of spreading out in terms of diversity and inclusion, I think when we did the FIFA tournament over there, that was like the only one I think we really were able to push and follow through on. Was like there was a lot of different people there. It was our first time ever being there. It was very diverse, and like the people that were involved. When I walked over here, I see people playing FIFA or FC 24. So I think that's something that I hopefully can figure out next school year. Because I think that's really important. There's a lot of people who do play sports games. I'm not a avid sports game player, but I know what it's like to be very passionate about a game that's not super popular, and in terms of like esports.
Yeah.
And I want them to have a place to be able to play. I want them to meet other gamers. Perhaps that might feed into the club. But I think just in general, just starting them off and being able to play, more than just on the student center is great. I think that's a great place to have, but also being able to play like in the esports arena and hopefully continuing that into something that we can add production to one day would be great.
Yeah.
So I think one of those easy ways to, maybe not easy, but one of those ways to connect is to get into the pockets of groups by going to the groups. So fraternities and sororities are a great pocket. And so what do the sororities know about playing? Have they played? Are they gamers? If they're not gamers, then do something that they can play together and compete together. And now you're bringing, they already have to come up with events and things to do to get to know each other better. So why not use gaming as a way to learn together so you can succeed, fail, have fun, and create an environment that, fraternities, sororities could do it for points if they wanted to. But I wanted to go back to your diversity comment, and I do think that you've brought in a lot more diversity in the groups. But I remember a time period where a lot of these are American games. And so I think, to visit with our international students and the international office and say, what are you playing? Because number one, they love to play something that they get to learn about an American way. and that's why they come to the rec center for certain things. But from a gaming end, are they familiar with the games that we play, or is there something they could introduce to us that maybe they're all playing, and in order for us to reach that population, maybe we need to figure out how to get it.
Yeah.
So
that's a great point to bring up. I think there are many games out there. One that has recently become popular, or at least two that have recently become popular, excuse me, have been a couple games called Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Those are two games from, I think it's a Korean or Japanese companies. I feel like that's wrong. But anyways, I can't remember what it is. But I know that our Overwatch coach, Evan, actually plays those games. And he loves to
regularly.
play those games.
Yeah.
Yes, he loves to play them a lot. But those are, part of that diversity inclusion aspect is, the game, I don't think there's a single English voiceover in the entire game. It's all in Japanese, I believe. So it's really cool that we can also bring in that opportunity because we have those games here on our computers everywhere. At the Game On Center, at the arena, people can just pick up and play games that they can play on their phone, typically, or their laptop, right? So that's another thing to kind of keep up with is, what games are currently popular? What's trendy, right? What can we continue to bring to the students and to bring that inclusion aspect up for games that they want to play? That's what I found one of the coolest things about the new student center here is that they have the VR systems. That whole Game On room down there has 8 computers, a couple ping pong tables, billiards tables, and then the VR room and a few setups for a Switch, a PlayStation, and an Xbox, right? A ton of stuff for people to try out if they don't really play games. And that's a really great aspect to have here. And I love that we're able to provide that idea of having different games. But on the topic of different games, it is a Chinese company. I was completely wrong.
I didn't want to say it.
That's my fact checker, by the way. Thank you, Adam, my producer. That is why I have a fact checker. I don't remember these things. That makes more sense in my head now. So it's in an entirely different language, right? It has English subtitles, I believe, and English translations for all the text, but I don't think any of the voice acting is in English. So, but on the topic of talking about games and stuff like that, in that mind, what are some of the games that you guys currently play today, if you do play any at all? I know I see Amy just shaking her head no. I do not
play on my computer, but I'm not playing. I'm back to card games.
Solitaire? Okay, yeah.
No, not solitaire. I'm a little more.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Just gonna do her like that?
No. Sorry.
I grew up with Pong, so.
Pinball.
Atari, one of the first ones. So excited when Dad brought that home and hooked it up to the TV and the 2 lines going up and down. We're like, wow, this is something. This is really it.
That's history. That's gamer history right there.
Right.
That is insane history, though. Yeah, Pong, one of the first games ever developed, for a console. So. And
you're too old to remember the console game that was football. And you put your players out on the electric board, and then you turn the switch on, and all that vibration, and you know.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was even before that, I think. And then
arcades and stuff, or whatever it was called back then. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we played the football console game.
Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah,
Tecmo
yeah,
Bowl.
you know that.
Okay.
You moved the dots around. That was your player that ran. And okay, I'm gonna shut up.
No. I'm interested. I promise. Because I don't really hear much about those games. I ask my parents all the time, what they play, and it's just like, got an Atari. My dad plays on his Xbox now and just sits down and plays a hunting game all day. So.
Pac-Man.
My mom still plays Pac-Man today.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of those games in mind. Bird, I know
Tetris.
you're a little bit of a gamer yourself. What do you play today? Or what are you a big fan of?
So currently been just playing a lot of Helldivers 2 with a bunch of buddies.
Nice. It's a great game. That's top tier.
Detroit, Texas. Play a lot of Civilization. I pretty much look every day to see when Civ 7's coming out.
Yep.
With no new updates on that. I am super excited for the college football game coming out in July.
Yes, we're in that game, by the way. I'm so excited. Yeah, Western's in it. I'm so excited to get it.
I was one of those people in high school that would camp out at GameStop till midnight to get it for the release. So not going to do that anymore, kind of growing out of that. But super excited about that coming back.
Now you pay a student to go sit there.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. All the times have changed. But that, and just do a lot of stuff with friends online. Like I remember in undergrad, one thing we would do before we would either go to work, go out, do stuff like that. We would just do like Royal Rumbles and WWE.
Yes, all right.
And we had a rule you couldn't use a special move or throw
house rules.
and throw one of the roommates out. But I would always not abide by that and just start chucking people out right away. Yeah,
my brother would get so mad when I would do that to him.
Oh yeah,
we would always play that game against each other. My dad was a big fan, cheering us on from behind us as we were going against each other. But no, I get that. That's really funny.
And then I still have my Super Nintendo from when I was a kid with like over 30 games for it, like Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past. Mario Paint, all that good stuff.
Mario Paint.
Mario Paint's an old.
That's a very obscure one.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you still run them on things?
Yeah, I had to buy an adapter for my TV.
Yeah, you have to. That's the craziest thing.
Yeah.
I was mentioning, talking about the Super Nintendo, the Apple Store has a big thing against emulators because it's basically pirating the games, right, and their softwares and stuff like that. But Apple just reeled back on those laws that they have on their App Store, and an emulator just came out today for the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo.
Are you serious right now?
I could send it to you, I promise.
All right.
Fact check on that.
Yeah.
Let's get a fact check.
Adam, let's
please.
get a fact check.
I was like, I saw it today. I was downloading it before we started this. So
because I know you can do that on the Switch.
yeah, you can. They have a lot of those old games on there. But something that I turned over because Adam was like looking over the monitor. I thought I was wrong about something.
Nintendo,
And
you say.
he's peering at me.
That's right.
They don't? I thought they did.
No, it's like 64, Game Boy, regular Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
And Game Boy Advance.
Yes. Yes.
Game Boy Advance.
And it's
I
not
grew up-
every game. It's just,
Okay.
I mean, it's the crowd favorites.
I see.
Like you can get GoldenEye, Majora's Mask, Ocarina of
My
Time.
dad was a big fan of GoldenEye.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
classic.
Oh man.
The controls are just so different. I just keep running around in circles. So
I understand. I couldn't
figure it
figure it out.
out.
Yeah.
There's no twin stick shooting.
Yeah.
So you have to
yeah.
like hold the right trigger in order to aim, but you have to be stationary to aim. It's like Resident Evil or something.
right, yeah.
The old
Okay,
Resident
okay.
Evils.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just a little bit of insight on how young I am. But no, that's awesome. But yeah, on the emulator topic, it's coming back, and it's good to see a lot of the old games kind of picking up steam once again. You can play them and try to get back into that. You needed an Android typically to play a lot of the emulator games, stuff like that. But Apple looks like they want to get back into it. So,
Interesting.
but I have not played Helldivers 2 yet.
Oh, what
I
are
have
you waiting
only
for?
watched. I don't know what I'm waiting for. I've only watched my friends play it hours on end.
Oh, yeah.
And I
it's
just enjoy
awesome.
it the entire time. So
It's awesome.
Amy, have you seen Starship Troopers?
No.
no.
man. Okay.
That movie rocks.
It's a very sarcastic, like super, like macho, over the top, like alien shooter kind of game. It's pretty hilarious and like it makes fun of itself. It
does.
pretty good like 4-player co-op game. It's ridiculous.
And it's a game that's a little bit more of like a live service game too. So they put effort into it, real time, to post on social media to get people to hop on the game to liberate planets and stuff
Oh,
like
I
that.
love
And
it.
it's absolutely awesome. They have an amazing community behind them. I mean, I haven't seen a game like this do well in a long time. And so I was very excited to see it start, and it's only been up ever since
that's
I've
cool.
seen announcements for it. So I need to get on the train. I
And
feel
the
like
nice
I'm
thing
behind.
about that is there's one guy, his name's Joel. So sorry to call you out, Joel, but he's like, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, he's like the
Yes.
dungeon master. So he
Okay,
comes
yeah.
up with everything that's going on
Oh, man.
in the game, and then just constantly changing things up with it as well. So it's always something.
I
different.
heard there was one person who runs it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
He sucks.
Wow.
Dang.
He makes it so hard.
The game is hard.
Do you play on the hardest difficulty?
God, no.
Okay.
It gets ridiculous real
Yeah.
fast.
I heard.
Yeah.
That's what I've
I think
heard.
I'm playing
So-
like 7 out of 9.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
still struggle.
Wow.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, so a little bit of insight. Tavian, what games do you play now? I know what games you play, but
Yeah,
at least say it
sure.
for the crowd.
So I mean, right now I'm big into Tekken. Like that's my competitive game. So that's like something I compete in and then practice in regularly. Outside of that, Helldivers 2, Last Epoch, which is like a Diablo-esque type game, but cheaper and well made. I play a few games here and there. I'm trying to think. Oh, Yakuza, Like a Dragon.
Yep.
Very ridiculous game, but I love it. And then a couple of games I play here and there are Ark and Pal World. They're both kind of the same game, just very different aesthetics. And then I play a lot of like side-scrolling beat 'em ups. So like
You play a
Streets
lot
of
of genres.
Rage.
There's a lot of
my
variety
son
here.
loves like Streets of Rage, which is great because like I'm a huge Streets of Rage fan. I was like raised on Sega Genesis and games like that. But like he'll be like, oh, can I go home? Like, can we go play Streets of Rage? I have him in the new Double Dragon Gaiden. So it's basically like a remake of the old Double Dragon, but
They
Really
remade
good.
that?
yeah, it's like a continuation. It's kind of weird, but it's really good. They just had a new DLC drop for it. So I showed him the game, and he's been hooked on it ever since. So
Oh man.
we do like a little like private channel for my family and friends where we like record ourselves playing and just play the game, talk, interact, and just send it to friends after it's edited a little bit so that they can kind of see my son grow up. I have family all over, so they don't get to see him as often, but seeing us together playing games as he's getting older and older, one, it's a good bonding experience for me and him, but also just my family and friends can also see him grow up.
Yeah,
old
that's
is he
super
now?
cool.
5.5.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Because he was born during that time of esports
Yeah.
start.
Yeah, so I started in October, bought a house in November. He was born December 5th.
So you just did everything that year.
Yeah, I was about to
yeah.
say
You
that.
just
Yeah.
became an adult real.
Yes.
Good
Yeah.
night.
Life hit me hard. Yep.
Oh goodness.
But yeah, no, those are the games that I play. And I kind of had a question thinking about that too, because it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I think, Bird and Chippy, I kind of want to hear your insight and maybe just from observation. I strongly believe that gaming is a great bonding experience, whether it's family or friends or whatever it may be, for multiple different reasons. Like if it's something like Helldivers, you're going on an adventure together and you're building that camaraderie, competitive
Being on a
games.
planet at light speed.
Yeah,
anyways.
like, there's a lot of different ways to like build this community or camaraderie, this like friendships and memories. So for you guys, can you speak on how games have impacted your ability to connect with other people, or how it has in the past?
Oh, I'll jump in here,
You go
Chippy, if
first,
you don't
yeah.
mind. Yeah, 1,000% it has. I remember after my graduate work here, so I was fortunate enough to graduate here with my master's degree, I had my first big boy job at Wichita State University. So moved all the way from, Kalamazoo to Wichita, Kansas. And if you know anything about Kansas, it's pretty flat. Not a lot going on there. Sorry to rain on the parade of your home state, Amy.
It's not my home state,
Or where you went
but
to
I went to
school,
school.
yeah.
I did go to school out in Kansas.
But like for me,
It's Prairie
being able
Hill.
to game, because back then I was really big in the For Honor with my buddies.
Oh,
So I was the type of person that would just come up late and just execute people that run away. I was that guy.
Steal them?
Oh, yeah,
You're
all
so
the time.
awful.
All the time. But it was a way just to be able to stay connected with them,
Yeah.
and especially like moving there, not knowing anyone other than the people I work with, and trying to meet new people. It was just nice to be able to have that to fall back on, and then just to, completely unplug and uncheck from reality and just be dived in that moment. Because like one thing too with gaming, no matter what's going on in the world, especially with Helldivers, you got to be all focused in on that. You just like block everything else out and just lock into it all that whole time you're playing.
yeah, absolutely.
That's a big reason why a lot of times like, you see a lot of the studies that come out say don't play longer than like 4 hours at a time, because if you play longer than that you won't know what's going on in the world, but especially for children. I should say that in retrospect to children. I'm a child and family development major.
12 hours at a time.
I'm a child and family development major, so I see all those studies about the games. But no, on that topic of what kind of keeps me together and linked to my friends, one of the biggest things that I had kind of growing up with my crones and stuff like that, I was kind of stuck inside a lot of the time. I wanted to be a sports kid. My brother wrestled. He did wrestling all throughout his entire career, all state, everything like that, did it all. And I wanted to be just like that, but I couldn't compete, you know. And I was too sick to ever really go out and do those types of things. And one time, you know, I was stuck in another hospital for a few months, and at Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, which I was able to do a charity for and raise some money for them, funnily enough, through esports. So my way of giving back was kind of the sweetest thing to me. But I played a lot of Super Mario at the hospital. And there was a child life specialist. His name was Jay. I got to work. He basically just hung out with me all day, and we played video games. I would go up there. I would play for hours. And one of the most heartwarming moments for me was I beat the new Super Mario Brothers. It was my second time ever beating it from the Wii, on the Wii. And it was my child life specialist, Jay. It was his first time ever beating a Mario game.
Nice.
And that was one of the sweetest things in the world that I remember today. And he was just like, I never thought I could have done it, you know? And that was something I look back on now, and I'm like, that's how I was able to connect with someone I do not know. I don't know him at all today, right? You know, he just helped me out when I was a kid, and all I want to do is repay it, right? And that's a big way that I was able to get that connection and want to give back myself. So, yeah.
Thank you.
That's a sweet story.
Well, I was going to say that even though different games, but when you talk about the Wii and when we were playing with that, we set up leagues in the neighborhood. And so it was away around the lake. And so you come over to somebody's house and they'd set it up. And, you know, everybody had their characters already made.
Nice.
I always played as Jesus. that was.
And Amy just stole the show with that.
I mean, I was just, you know, oh, that's what I said, you know. So it was awesome. But anyway, I'm saying that there's different ways, different ages, different stuff that, you know, so obviously I'm not playing in the other gaming stuff right now, but now that I've got some free time, I got to learn.
Yeah, so going off that, let me ask
oh gosh,
you all
now I'm scared Bird's going to ask a question.
That's right, you should be.
Oh.
What game would you recommend to Amy to start playing?
Ooh, I like your question.
Yes, if you get your hands on a Switch, new Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Instantly. That game is super accessible. There are characters in there that allow you to just play the game and not take damage, unless you vault the world, of course. But you're able to just go in and play and not have a single worry and just enjoy the story. That's all I would recommend, is enjoy the story. That's what the best part about playing some of those games, that, you know, if you're not looking to get into it competitively, it's always the story games.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a good RPG.
Oh, I was going to say, I think Baldur's Gate, actually. It's not very mechanically intensive. And you can play the game a lot of different ways. And just from your sense of humor, it seems pretty diverse. So I think you would get a good kick out of that game. And you don't have to, like, be good with the controls or anything like that.
I was going to say, it's pretty easy to pick up with a controller, as long as you take some time to learn all of the mechanics in the game, which there are a lot. Once you get past that wall of learning the game, like, the story is phenomenal. For a little context, I played Baldur's Gate 3, the one that recently came out. Game of the Year title, by the way.
Oh.
So it's highly recommended by anyone.
Right.
I only have 25 hours in the first act because I decided to do all the side stuff first. You don't have to do any side quests, by the way. You could just play the game straight through the main story and be fine. But you know, it's one of those RPG games, like, you know, Bird mentioned he's a big RPG sucker, right? Where that one I would recommend hands down. Customizable experience all to yourself. I mean, it is an amazing game.
Have you ever recommend
Elden Ring?
No. No. Elden Ring, for context, Amy, a really difficult
it is
hack and
intentionally
slash.
Absurd how hard it is.
I've never beaten a game like that. And I've actually broken a controller over the first Dark Souls game.
I believe that.
That's because they made Elden Ring, or one of the...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The same,
they made all those Sekiro, Elden Ring.
Same company. Made all those games.
Bloodborne.
Yep. I was like 13 years old, had an Xbox 360 controller, and it met the ground.
Yep.
Met the ground. I like that.
I think Elden Ring's a game that I've logged the most time in.
What?
Oh, wow.
And I think I clocked in over 500 hours on it.
Man. Did you beat it more than once, at least?
No. No. I just kept dying.
Awesome.
As you do. It's a hard game. Have you played Dungeons and Dragons before?
Nope.
Okay. Basically, Baldur's Gate, just so you know, it's Dungeons and Dragons, the video game.
Okay.
Like, it takes the same mechanics and applies it to the game.
Cool.
But I mean, like, if you're looking to get back into them slowly, some of those party games, like Switch games, are just hands down like some of the best. They have that new Switch Sports that came out. I don't know if you guys have seen it at all, but I've played it a lot recently. I love it. It's got bowling back. That's all I care about was the bowling. Bowling's back.
Interesting.
We're back. That's all I can think. But I forgot the question again.
What should I
recommend?
start
Yes,
with?
yeah. So Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Bird, do you have one that you'd recommend?
Well, it was going to be Elden Ring, but that.
No, I would not recommend that game.
I would not
I would
either.
not recommend that game.
It depends. I mean, do you want a good storyline? Do you want action? Do you just want to come in there, guns a-blazing? What do you?
Depends on the day.
Wait, have you guys seen like A Way Out or It Takes Two? Those games, those split screen co-op games.
Yeah.
So there's a little preface on It Takes Two. It's a cooperative game. It's split screen and meant for couch co-op. So you're supposed to sit next to a buddy and you play on the same screen the entire time. And it's a story game about two parents currently trying to decide what they're going to do because they're currently going through a divorce. But their daughter doesn't really like that, and something weird happens with a spell, and they're turned into dolls. And the goal of the story is to turn back into humans. That's it. That's all I'll tell you. If you want to get into a game, that one was like, I think it was almost a Game of the Year title.
It was nominated.
Was it? I believe
so.
it was. But it was like a cooperative family game of the year. Absolutely amazing story. And it's, I think, no longer than like 20 hours, 30-hour game.
Okay.
No, less than that. Less than that. 15, 20 hours you can put into it. And that's it.
Wow.
You just play it with another friend or, got a loved one in your life. There you go.
Yeah, there you
that's
go.
a perfect game to play.
Had
Easy
no
to pick up
clue.
and play with a controller. It has like 6 buttons and that's it. That's all you got to do. So that's a good one.
I didn't know the story was that like that deep.
It's actually not that deep of a story. It's pretty
really?
simple. It's just
Pretty common nowadays,
yeah,
right?
I
Except
guess.
for your parents don't turn into dolls, but maybe in your mind you think they
it's
do.
like a love book turns them into
Right.
dolls. It's really
Yeah.
funny. It's really funny. It's a really
check
good
that out
story
now.
though. But it's a good cooperative game. That's one I'd recommend. And then they also made a game called A Way Out where you play as two prisoners on their way of escaping. And I won't
didn't
add
know
more
the
to
same
that
people.
because that story is also amazing.
Shawshank Redemption right there.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Almost
Video game
exactly, I
version
would
of
say.
it.
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool.
yeah, those are some games I would recommend.
Sweet.
It's bouncing off the topic of the games and stuff like that. We all have our favorites and things like that. But to kind of talk on the legacy of games in general, the esports program here at Western will leave an impact regardless on who it is. It's left an impact on my life, and it's left an impact on many of the alum that I've talked to about it as well. And with that in mind, talking about that legacy, I am so sorry. I have water in my throat, and it didn't go down the right tube. Anyways, the legacy that esports will leave behind will be one that's massive, and with you retiring as well, Amy, knowing that legacy, what do you hope to kind of leave behind with esports, setting it up and kind of leaving it here, what do you think the legacy it will leave in the future could be?
Well, first of all, we're the first school that really has an arena and the production. So that is so unique to anything else that anybody else has. Everybody's got a computer lab that they use for gaming. But I think that that's a unique piece. I actually am hoping at some point, because when we built the arena, we built it with the idea that you could pick up everything and move it. My long-term vision, you didn't ask that, you asked my legacy, but my long-term
That's
vision.
a vision, though, with the legacy of it, right?
Yeah, my long-term vision would be to move it onto the main campus. If there was a way to ever put it into the new resident hall that they were talking about, or connect it to another space on campus, I would still keep the arena concept, and then get some of the other rooms that you need. The teams need some rooms, but you could also, the way the rooms could be set up, could be competition rooms for other things, right? So I think that we've proven that the esports arena can be used for a couple of other things. The Rec Academy was there, which was our student banquet awards ceremony. I think that I had asked you, Chippy, before about game shows. I think that
Yes, I would love a
departments
game show.
could really do
Love a game
something.
show.
Admissions could do something with that to meet. So I think that there's some packaging with some ideas that students could be challenged to think about, that maybe this would be a good way to come together. You know, everybody's trying to create, but if we create it and they just need to come, we could get more people in the arena. Yeah. So I don't know that I have a legacy with the arena. I mean, I really think it's, you know, we hired Tavian, we had hired Andre at the beginning, and those were the beginning people that started it off. But, you know, now you're part of the legacy of all the parts and pieces. So every single student who comes in that engages with the program is part of the legacy. So our job, as I always said in the stuff I was doing, you need to track it. We think nobody cares about what we're doing right now. We only care about the past. Well, you're part of the history as of today. Tomorrow, this is history, right? So we have an obligation to keep track of what we're doing, the teams, the players, and that needs to get over to archives so they have, you know, some of the production work and have a chance to see some things. And so the university needs that. We need the history of it. So my job now is looking back and saying, do we have that stuff? Remember when I first arrived at the university, you know, we were moving out of the Gary Center, which was the second gymnasium on campus. And that was going to be turned into the Student Rec Center. And, you know, there was a box of black and white pictures of students and handmade uniforms. And I'm like, what is this stuff? And I'm like, I can't throw it out. I don't know the history, but somebody does. And then there were some uniforms, and there were, you know, my office was a hodgepodge of history. And now it's fun. I found a 1934 trophy that they spelled the word baseball, B-A-S-E -ball. I'm like, obviously not English people, English majors, spelling people, but whatever. So, so I don't know what the legacy is, but I think that we're building, and you know, we've got the Parks Department a part of the program and bringing kids in, and that starts a comfort level. The camps start a comfort level of students wanting to come back to something. And that may be the connection that they now want to come to WMU. So that's the hope. Yeah. So the academic area is the next piece that has to get going.
yeah.
And that's not just ours. There's some thoughts on it, and they're working on the minor. But
I've got a follow-up question for you, too. And Bird, you can answer this, too. So in regards to esports, but just your overall career, I've seen the passion, like the rec center in general, just like everyone has passion for what they do. I think I fall into that category too. But, you know, in regards to the esports program and then the work that you've done, what is your driving passion? Like what was the thing that triggered you to make you want to do this?
So, you know, even though I was a high school and then a college athlete, and I wasn't a good athlete, so, you know, I had to go to the smaller school so I could play. But what switched for me in college when I finished playing was that everyone has kind of that champion within them. The top is always taken care of. People look out for the people at the top. I am a mid-major kind of person. I love the middle and the underdog because they have the greatest area of growth and they have the greatest possibility to get somewhere. When you're at the top, you just got to hold at the top. That's excellence there, and that's good. But when you're in the middle or you're at the bottom, and where we are at Western is we meet students where they are. So wherever they come in at, you can grab that, and there's always a space to move if they want to. So that drives my passion for, as I looked at esports, I thought, you know, we don't even know who these students are. We don't even know who these kids are playing. It's a huge community, and we are out of it. So I'm so intrigued to want to know who that group is and how we get them connected differently. They're already connected, but how do we develop that connection even greater? And we saw that when they traveled, right? When our students had the opportunity to experience travel. That's a game changer, right? We see it with conferences, with students in other areas. So the passion for me has always been connection. The work that we do is work. Taking care of the students is our job, but it's the passion behind it that every connection, well, in my whole career has been about connections. There's work that we do, it's different, but it's always the connection. The connection is the fine line that runs through everything.
God, now I gotta follow
Well
that
said,
up
yeah,
with
well
my
said.
story.
Yeah,
Good,
wow.
nice.
Didn't mean to quiet the room.
Oh,
You know.
man.
That was well said. I love that.
So I got into this. I originally went to school to be a high school history teacher and a football coach. That was my plan. Couldn't pass the teaching exam, took it twice. So then my advisor at the time was like, just graduate and get out of here. And I was like, all right.
See you.
So I was meeting with Matt Higley. He was a first-year GA at Indiana State University. And I was in my victory lap year. And he was like, Bird, what are you going to do with your life? I was like, well, I'm a history major and a poli-sci minor, so I'm just going to wing it. He's like, that's your career plan is to wing it?
Wing it.
I was like, yeah, I don't know what else to do. And he's like, do you like working in the rec center officiating? I was like, yeah, it's like the best job I've ever had. He goes, well, why don't you look into doing this? I was like, you can do this? So that's when I started working with him, and then did an internship at Sanford, was fortunate enough to do my graduate assistantship here. And yeah, really just fell in love with it. And, you know, for me, it's always about developing and giving back and, you know, wanting to be that person that, you know, gave me a shot to give people a shot. And I would say too, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm loyal to a fault. Like, I'm incredibly loyal.
Very true.
So
Very true.
I would, you know, I'm loyal to the students here at Western. I'm loyal not only to the students in the SRC, but loyal to all the students here, because we all were just like them at one point in time. And if esports helps them find their niche or their connection and makes them feel that sense of belonging to WMU, then absolutely we have to do that. Because with everything else going on in the world, if they can just dive into esports and escape reality and have some fun for a little bit, I mean, that's really what it's all about. And I know you all have seen this with, you'll have one of the shyest people in the world never talk, and then you put them at one of the stations and they're one of the loudest, most enthusiastic people there. And that to me is really what it's all about. It's finding that common ground and connecting people as well that wouldn't otherwise become connected.
I love that. I had a foreign exchange student. His name was Deong Yang from Korea, and he was actually an ex-pro league player for Rainbow Six Siege, the game I competed under. Quietest person I ever knew. He did not talk, and when he did talk, it was basically broken English. You know, he knew how to speak and he understood English, but it was pretty hard for him, I would say. But when I played that game with him, he was a totally different person, a completely different person, and I still don't understand it to today. And he texts me all the time. You know, he's at Arizona State now. He texts me all the time about what he's doing, what they do, and I love it. I love to hear about it from him. And he was quiet, a very quiet person, reserved, and we put him in an instance where he got to express himself, and it lights out, it changed. So I love that. It's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't got much to add. That was very well said. I'm just soaking it in. That was awesome. No, I love that. I mean, you know, one of the I mentioned it earlier. You know, a big reason why I am a family or child and family development student is because I want to be a child life specialist. I want to give back. You know, I was once sick. I want to help out other kids who were sick. You know, who are sick. That's not the right way to say it. But you know, I want that feeling of giving back. You know, because I was helped. You know, I can be in the same scenario where I can give back, and you said it way better than I could. You know, I'm loyal to a fault to that standard I hold myself to. So I would just relate to it. I was soaking it in.
Cool.
I guess I'll speak on my experience a little bit too, just to give you guys some context about me. So the connection part that we talked about earlier, that's definitely a huge part of it. The other part for me was like personal growth. And I actually learned personal growth through a game called Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Adam's going crazy.
It's a very iconic fighting game. It's one of the most beloved fighting games in the fighting game community, and that was something that I was very passionate about. And at the time, I was playing it. I had a bunch of friends that played it, and I got one of my. I was his boss, and I got him into playing the game. And at a certain point, he got better than me at the game. And I was always a person that I was good at stuff right away, or I just didn't apply myself at all. There was no middle ground. There was no concept of improvement or growth or anything. That's just how my brain worked. I thought that's how everyone worked. So luckily in that game, he got better than me, and I didn't understand how that worked. And I was able to see his time logged in the game. So he had twice as many matches as me. And I calculated the other part that you could see is how much time he spends in the training room. And he had literally 10 times as much time as I did in the game. And that, as sad as that is, that was a really big clicking moment for me, where it's oh, you put time into something, you grow. And that was something where, okay, I was really big into fitness at the time. I lost close to 60 or 70 pounds and was just incredibly active. And that transformation of okay, you work on stuff, you improve, you grow. I didn't really have a mentor to teach me that. So figured it out on my own, and I was okay, well, that's something that other people probably need, especially gamers, because a lot of gamers, they do escape, and some don't really come up for air too often, and understandably so. I was one of those people. I was not a very happy person for most of my life, and being able to figure that out for myself and recognizing that I could help other people do it, that's been a huge driving factor in what I do every day. So it took a while to figure it out. I got into game development and realized that I hated that. Went back to school for life coaching, and then went to a huge tournament in Chicago. And that was the moment where I was yeah, competitive games, that's something that I definitely want to be involved in. But how do I bring personal development to competitive gaming? Because I talked to so many business coaches and other coaches in my field, and no one knew anybody that was doing what I was doing. So that's in a nutshell why I'm very passionate about this. I'm sure you've had many conversations with me, so you've probably recognized the passion. I'm a huge gamer myself. So
talk about fighting games all day.
Yeah, I mean, I still compete to this day.
Walk in, he's supposed to be working 9 to 5. I walk in at 5:30 and he's still playing. I just, dude, you gonna go home? No, just kidding.
Get my practice in before I go home.
Yeah, he plays for an hour before he goes home. Gotta get that time in,
Plus, I can check in on the rest of the staff too. So it's all right, get my practice in. I got it. Check on some of the night staff that's coming in.
That's a win-win there.
I think so too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I do.
Funny. There are sometimes I walk in, he's playing a totally different game, and I'm all right, Tavian, you trying to grind out some Overwatch today? You know?
I do try to learn some of the other games that I'm not that good at. I think it's important to learn that. I'm not great at it, but it helps me understand a little bit more about how to play the game.
It's so funny. I just walk in through the back door and you just game it. It's one of the funniest things to walk in on too, because I'm oh, he's playing a new game today. And then there'll be a week of that same game. And then a week later, it's a totally different game. And I'm
he's learning.
This is it. I can tell you're putting time into it, And it's fun to see.
We're going to get one of those
game I play, though. Anyways.
lawn cutting games, and then I'll be in there all the time.
Lawn cutting? The lawnmower simulator?
No way.
Yeah.
Have you played lawnmower simulator?
No, I want to. Because it'd be awesome. Look at them lines and stripes on that.
It's just as enthusiastic as it sounds. It is that awesome. I promise.
I would just sit there and look at the screen like I would my lawn. Yep, look at that.
It's that cool. You can hook up a wheel. It's that interactive.
That may be what you have to start playing. Just get you started in that. Because I think there's one for farming too. You could do.
There's a farm simulator.
Yeah.
There's several.
Very popular. There's an esports for farming sim. Did you know that?
No.
There is
Start
esports
building
for
my
farming
farm.
simulator. It is crazy. I don't know what they do. I just know about it. That's all I know is that they do it. But there's a power wash simulator. There's a lot of games like that out there.
Oh.
Power wash simulator is actually awesome. That one, I'm a big germaphobe, so that one really hits the right button for me. That one I love. I love cleaning.
It's so
things.
wild. There's also a goat simulator, just so you know.
That one is.
There's several of those.
How does that work?
I have no
You
clue.
just watch a goat.
I think you play as the goat.
You do. You play as the goat. It's just an arcade game. It's just a pickup arcade game, and there's no goals. You just go around as a goat.
What would the
And
goal
you
be?
eat.
I don't know.
Eat everything.
I don't
in
know.
sight.
You're
Eat
right,
all the things,
actually.
yeah.
I don't know what the goal would be.
Don't get shaved for wool? I don't know. I do want to check that out, though.
So they made a third one where it's like cooperative now too.
Oh, wow.
There's 3 goat simulators. Yeah.
That's wild.
That's the funniest thing to think about. There's 3 of them. Why are you making 3 of these games? Anyway.
What you should do is we should get the lawn cutting simulator and then have a competition amongst all the dads in Kalamazoo.
There you go. That's how we get the parents in here.
Maybe have the winner get a pair of Air Monarchs or the New Balance dad shoes.
We have an IM league for farming simulator. The number 1 person gets to mow all the lawns at the school, though. Nowhere else. I'm kidding.
I like it.
But yeah, so I want to thank you guys for your time here today with me. It's been a blast. I've had a great time. I always have a great time on this podcast, and it's be the last one for the semester as well. So it's kind of ended off on a high note for us. Kind of a great time, a nice little finale talking about the legacy of esports in general and some of the games we all love to play over the time. So once again, thank you guys for joining me here today. It's been a blast.
Thank
you.
you. This was
Thanks.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
it
course. If you
was.
want us back, let us know.
Of course.
Can't
I
wait to
I speak for
can't
them,
wait to
so.
go look for my games.
I'm gonna go to the
in
arena
the
and
mailbox.
download Lawn Mowing Simulator. And
Oh, I better
I'm
get a
gonna-
picture.
I will.
I'll
I
be
will.
there tomorrow.
It will be on there as soon as I am scheduled for work. But outside of that, congratulations on the retirement as well,
Thank
Amy.
you. Thank
I'm
you.
excited for the future for you as well. Get to relax a little bit, get some time off.
No,
It'll be a
we're
ton of
calling it rewiring
Ah,
because retiring sounds like I'm just supposed to sit around.
I
but
thought, like,
but
you're-
I have been getting up a lot later. I mean, a lot later.
I thought you meant like you're rewiring your house. I was like,
No,
oh.
I'm rewiring me. So the way you're conditioned every day to get up and go and
You do
do
the same routine
I
for,
can
some
yeah,
odd
for
years.
35 and a half years. So
Yeah.
I can rewire. I just don't know what that is right this
Yeah.
second.
Don't have that thing yet.
But I hope to, I'm close to campus, so I hope to be around to help support things. So opportunity for me to learn a little bit about. Because, see, I think gaming, and I've been thinking about this watching my mom, whose health is not great, but I've been thinking about the ability to use gaming to help people heal. And I think there's a huge opportunity. She can't travel anymore. There's got to be a way she travels in VR world to,
Right.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
at
Promise it's a
85,
thing.
she can sit in her lounge chair and be somewhere across the world doing something and having some fun. So could be cool.
Good.
So I hope to be back to do some things. So
Awesome.
thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. You guys are listening to the ESBN podcast on 89.1 WIDR FM. If you want to find out more about esports here at Western or anything else to get involved, go check out all of our socials online. We have the WMU Esports on Twitch, Twitter, and all the other websites there online. We have posts on Instagram, Facebook. You can find us online. It's pretty easy. Just search WMU Esports and you find us pretty fast. If you want to find more episodes or other podcasts here from WIDR, go to widrfm.org, WIDRFM.org. You can catch all of our old episodes and all the other highlights from other podcasts. My favorite one is Kazoo Foods right now. I've been listening to that one quite a bit. They just talk about food all day or for an
sounds
hour.
like my kind of.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Oh, it's really good. There was one they talked about ice cream, I think,
Ooh.
and then hot dog toppings, I think. I can't remember that one. But they're really fun. I love listening on them. So if you want to, get a glimpse of what else is happening with WIDR and other podcasts, feel free to take a look. So once again, thank you guys so much for listening. We will see you next semester. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.